Welcome to this explainer. If you've been watching the housing market lately, you've probably noticed a pretty massive shift in the wind. We are officially moving away from the days of instant weekend bidding wars. Instead, we're looking at a landscape where Fresno home prices are actually dropping and leveling out. So today, we're going to dive straight into the data to figure out exactly why this market shift is happening right now.
So let's jump right into the big burning question, right? Why are sellers in the Fresno area suddenly slashing their asking prices and doing it so early in the game? Well, the short answer is that the local market is handing sellers a rather harsh reality check. We're sitting in a noticeably softer real estate environment right now, which basically means buyers are holding all the cards. With interest rates sitting higher than they have been in recent years, buyers are really feeling the pinch on their monthly budgets, and because of that added financial pressure, they are incredibly cautious. They're totally willing to wait it out, and they absolutely are not budging unless they see what they consider to be a genuinely fair price.
To figure out what's really going on beneath the surface, we've got a quick roadmap for you today. We'll be looking at the market shift, the return of inventory, the new construction wildcard, and finally, a return to balance.
Okay, kicking things off with part one, the market shift, and this massive tug-of-war happening between buyers and sellers.
Right now, it's a total standoff out there. And the absolute magic number you need to know here is 4 to 5. Sellers are coming into the market with these sky-high expectations based on how things looked, a year or two ago, but they're getting incredibly rapid feedback. If buyers think a property is even slightly overpriced, it just sits there. And because of that, we're seeing price cuts begin in just 4 to 5 weeks. That is a massive shift in buyer psychology. You just don't get to test the waters for months on end anymore. The pure silence from buyers is telling sellers almost immediately that they need to drop their price if they actually want to make it to the closing table.
And this quote brilliantly illustrates our new reality, directly from Realtor.com senior economist Joel Berner. As he points out, this timeline is actually earlier than most people might anticipate. I mean, think back to 2021 or 2022. Back then, a house would hit the market on a Friday, and by Sunday evening, sellers were reviewing a dozen offers way above asking price. It was just 48 hours of pure chaos. Today, completely different ballgame. Sellers have to adjust their expectations much earlier in the listing process. They literally cannot afford to be stubborn or rely on yesterday's pricing strategies. And honestly, that's a huge driver behind why we're seeing those asking prices drop so visibly across the region.
Moving right along to our second point, the return of inventory, which is essentially the ultimate market equalizer right now.
Look at the absolute night and day difference between the frantic pace of the last few years and where we're sitting today. Just think about that environment of pure scarcity we were in not too long ago. It was like a massive crowd of eager buyers fighting tooth and nail over a single house. Homes sold insanely fast because there just wasn't enough to go around. But look at where we are now. The time a house spends on the market is slowing down precisely because the number of homes for sale just keeps rising. We're seeing more and more options pop up in neighborhoods all over the city. And when buyers actually have multiple houses to choose from, that scarcity mindset vanishes entirely, which naturally forces sellers to bring those prices down to stay competitive.
Joel Berner makes a really great point here. Hitting these pre-pandemic inventory levels isn't just some random statistic. It's a critical benchmark for the market recovering from the massive shock we all experienced a couple of years ago. It essentially levels the playing field. Think of it like a giant pressure valve finally releasing. When inventory is this healthy, the desperation completely disappears from the buyer's side. They don't feel forced to waive inspections or offer 20 grand over asking just to get a foot in the door. That sense of normalcy coming back to the market is directly pulling those inflated price tags right back down to earth.
All right, part 3. This is where things get really fascinating. The new construction wildcard, and exactly how builders are undercutting the existing market.
To understand why a brand new home might actually end up costing a buyer less month to month than a 20-year-old one right now, we have to grasp this one specific tactic: the mortgage rate buydown. Basically, this is a financial incentive where home builders literally pay money up front to lower the buyer's interest rate. It's a massive financial lever, and it's one that an everyday person selling their older home simply cannot pull. While a regular homeowner can really only negotiate by dropping their asking price, these big corporate builders can effectively make the long-term financing significantly cheaper. And let me tell you, that makes a huge difference in a buyer's monthly payment.
So here's exactly why these new builds are winning over buyers and shifting the whole landscape. First up, builders are aggressively offering those mortgage rate buydowns we just talked about to get inventory off their books. Second, because of those massive incentives, newly built houses might actually sell at a lower effective price in some cases. And third, Fresno currently has a very healthy amount of new construction available across the valley.
So, if you're trying to sell a pre-existing home today, you are not just competing with your neighbor down the street, you are in direct, fierce competition with brand new, heavily incentivized developments that are actively trying to win over your exact same pool of buyers.
Berner hits the nail on the head here. This competitive new construction pricing is something every single buyer and seller in the Central Valley needs to factor into their bottom line right now. It is a massive gravitational pull on the local market. Just think about it from the buyer's perspective for a second. If they can get a brand new build with a pristine roof, modern appliances, and a significantly lower interest rate for roughly the same price as an older home, the choice is a no-brainer. If builders are aggressively pricing to sell quickly, everyday homeowners have absolutely no choice but to drop their own prices if they want to get any attention at all.
Which brings us to our fourth and final section, a return to balance and how Fresno is finally aligning with the rest of the nation.
You know, for years, Fresno was a major anomaly. It was a market operating like an absolute rocket ship, moving much faster and appreciating far quicker than the national average. Homes here were just flying off the market, while other parts of the country were moving at a way more typical pace. But guess what? That localized speed advantage has completely evaporated. Today, the scales have balanced out entirely. Properties in the Fresno area are now moving at the exact same rate as the rest of the country. We aren't this extreme outlier in the data anymore. We've basically just rejoined the broader national housing trend.
As buyer demand adjusts across the board, the data shows us exactly what this new normal looks like in real time. Just take a look at how these metrics are shifting. Pricing is actively leveling off after years of super steep climbs. Supply, it just keeps steadily rising as we inch closer and closer to those healthy pre-pandemic inventory levels. And the timing of it all reflects a noticeably slower, much more deliberate pace of sales. Everything in Fresno is finally aligning with a much more balanced, predictable environment. The absolute frenzy that defined this market for so long is officially out of the system.
So that leaves us with a pretty massive question to chew on. With Fresno officially losing its outlier status and falling right back in line with national averages, are the days of the Central Valley's frantic real estate boom gone forever? And more importantly, what does navigating this brand new, balanced market truly mean for your next move?